would turn to the book of Romans, the 8th chapter, and the 18th verse. Romans, the 8th chapter, and the 18th verse. And the scriptures declare, "For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." I'm going to read that one more time. "For I reckon, I realize, I understand, I am aware that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us." And we just want to share for a little while and allow God to talk to us this morning from the subject, what God offers is greater than the cost. What God offers is greater than the cost. We're living in a day and time where people from various walks of life and various backgrounds have come to the false conclusion that this life of faith with God is going to be a life without suffering. So many have given up on their confidence and their faith in God. The reason they have done this is because when the going got tough, they felt God got to going. When suffering became a more frequent part of their lives, some felt that the cost of walking with God was more than they were willing to give. You know how it was when we first was born again. As Elder was up here talking, amen, about my growing up here, I thought back on when I first came down that hill. 1986. The church looked huge to me. I'm like, wow, we're going there? For a few years, I sat here, my mother brought me, and I listened. I listened to the word as it was preached. Came to Sunday school, listened to First Lady Lowry teach us in Sunday school class. All the time, God, I didn't know this, but God was preparing me for his offer. So I'm going through life, and maybe about 4 years goes by. Then the offer came. God opened up his mouth and said to me, "You must be born again." Said, "I'm going to use you to be a blessing and encouragement to many, especially to those of the household of faith." At that point, I had to make a decision. Am I willing to pay the cost to receive what God offers? When we were new converts, many people declared, "I'm going all the way with Jesus. I'm going to come out here. I've come out here to stay till I die, and I wish the devil would try to stop me." We have all kind of declarations and things we want to say when we first get born again, because we're fairly new, and we don't know yet that this life is going to cost something. So we have all kind of zeal, and we have all kind of gung-ho-ness, and we're ready to go, and we're ready to do, and we're ready to say, and we're ready to conquer, and we're ready to be victorious. But then there comes a time when the things that you have talked about, you have to live now. The time came from moving from lip service into moving to long-suffering service. It's not just about talking now. It's not just about opening up our mouth and saying, "I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that for God." Now you got to do it when trouble comes. Now you have to do it when the storms of life are raging all around you, and you still have to be faithful. The time came from moving about what we're going to do to doing what we talked about. What we as people of God must remember is that the sufferings of this present time is not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. And one thing about suffering, these sufferings are not worthy to be compared with God's glory which shall be revealed in us. Regardless of the intensity of a trial, God's abundance of blessing is greater than the suffering that we must endure. Joseph received a dream from God that God was going to elevate him to greatness. And on his way to greatness, he had to face some obstacles. Once he received God's offer, his family didn't understand him anymore. And because of the misunderstanding, they sold Joseph into slavery. And we have to understand that sometimes folk that claim to be your friends, folk that claim to have your back, and they claim to be supporters of you, sometimes when God is taking you to a place that they're not willing to go, they'll try to sell you out to the enemy. They'll go ahead and try to just, I don't know him. When you need them, they won't be around. They're not willing to go where God is taking you. But we have to tell ourselves, I'm willing to pay the cost, because what God offers is so much greater than a few folk trying to sell me out to the enemy. Another example was there of David. There was a young shepherd boy named David. David, who was out in the field tending his father's sheep, and while he was out in the field, Samuel the prophet was in his father's house seeking the one that God wanted to anoint. One thing we have to understand about David is that while his brothers were looking for a position, David was learning how to be faithful. While his brothers was jockeying for a place, David was out about doing his father's business. He was learning what the cost of serving God really was. So he was alone out there. All he had was the sheep and himself. And only person he could talk to was God. Sometimes we're going to have to learn that we're going to be alone on this journey. Sometimes God is going to place you in a secluded place in your life. And you can be surrounded by folk just like David was surrounded by sheep and still be secluded. And the reason is because God is offering you something that's only for you.